Welcome everyone. It's great to see you here. Now we're streaming into our trusted group tonight, and just bringing it up here myself so I can see everything. And there we are. So this is our only view this evening. I will be turning myself off at certain points, like so, just to not distract you so much. Make sure you've got a set of headphones on. If you don't have a set of headphones on, get some right now. It's really important. So there's no mind map that we're going to be going through. I've got my own mind map here, but we're just going to be spending this time with as few distractions as possible. I'm going to tell you about how the present session came about, and then we're going to teach you a couple of practices, a long practice and a short practice that have been born out of an understanding of how the mind works. And for most people here, this is going to be life-changing, I would say. This video will be available to everybody tomorrow, but I appreciate all of you here in the trusted group. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to have you here, and it's wonderful to have you here this evening. I see you all flowing in here. That's really great. So what is a present session? It's knowledge about how the mind works, and it's an understanding that you are not your mind. It's a technique to free yourself from the incessant harassment of the mind. I know there's a lot of us that struggle with this. It's a technique to become instantly self-aware, present, conscious, enlightened, and it's the beginning of a new life spent in the present moment with total peace of mind, shalom. Some Christians have described this as being the thing that Yeshua must have been referring to when he talked about peace that passes all understanding. Some of the levels of stillness that you'll experience this evening will be unlike anything you've ever experienced before. And if you've tried to meditate before, if you've tried to be still, if you've tried to count your breathing and things like that, you're going to find that, at least for the people that have gone through this already, this is leaps and bounds beyond other things that are out there. And this is the start of trying to make this available for everybody at all times. And you can see the URL there. If I just move out of the way a little bit, presencesession.com. We have a website there. We have some old content that's there right now. I'm going to update all that, put the videos up there so people can have this content there. And actually, it's starting to get a bit warm in here with all the lights on, so I'm just going to turn my heat down. So let me just do that right now. Okay. So we're going to learn how to become aware of our own mind matter. We're going to become aware of the thoughts that are always hammering away inside. And we know they're there. We deal with them day in and day out. But once you can become completely acutely aware of them, then you're able to rise above them and to observe them, and it puts us into a very, very different state. And to be free of the mind is to be truly free. It's the mind that holds us captive. It's the mind that causes us so much pain. So this kind of started for me in 2015 when my car was stolen. I shared this story just recently. And I packed up everything in my vehicle, and I was about to leave the very next morning. And I came down the stairs and someone said, "Oh, you're here." Yes. Wasn't for about an hour later that I needed to go out to my car to get something, and it wasn't there. The possessions that were in the vehicle were more valuable than the vehicle, and it was a fairly new car. And got it back 4 days later, but I had to start completely from scratch. I had no clothes. I had no underwear. I had no socks. I didn't have anything but the clothes that I was wearing that day that I went to sleep. I had a laptop that I still have with me now. But something happened in the way that I responded to it where I was so calm. I wasn't upset. I wasn't depressed, and people around me were kind of making comment about, "Wow, you're taking this really well." I was aware of that I was, and it was strange to me. But after a while, I lost that state of presence and being able to observe my own emotional state. And over the next 18 months, fell into this terrible pit of depression. I've never really suffered with depression before, but I fell into enormous depression. I was completely broken. I didn't have anything to live for. It was hard. It was really hard. And I wasn't suicidal because I knew that this too shall pass. I knew I would get through it. And I did. And if it wasn't for that, then you and I wouldn't be here doing this evening. So it was for a good reason. So I lied down one afternoon, took a nap. And as I lied down, it was like I fell into an abyss. I just fell into a black hole. And I don't know how long this experience lasted. It was hard to gauge time, but when I came to, I was acutely aware of everything my mind was doing. And for the next many months, I was intuitively trying to observe the mind and see what's going on here. I've never experienced anything like this before. I read The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, which is a book I definitely recommend. And I started to understand what had happened. Eckhart Tolle had gone through exactly the same experience himself. A spontaneous enlightenment, a spontaneous disconnection of the awareness from the mind. And he started to unpack it too, and I started to unpack it as well. But what I started to do was to pay attention to the way the mind works, and then to try to understand it to such a degree that I could create some skills, some techniques to maintain that separation. Because I saw right from the start, the separation, you would lose it all the time. And so I would set a timer, and a timer is going to be very important. People that say, "Oh, I don't need to use a timer," those are the people that probably need to use a timer far more than anyone else. That's the ego saying, "Oh no, I'm okay." Well, maybe, but probably not. And so we'll get to where we use a timer a little bit later on here, but I used the timer, and when the timer would go off, it would be to remind me to become aware of my mental state. Where am I? What's going on here? So over a period of time, I would start to increase the timer. I noticed that my subconscious mind would become so familiar with the timer that I would just switch it off. I wouldn't even remember doing it. So I would start to randomize the times. I might set it for 23 minutes and 18 seconds. And the next day it might be for 21 minutes and 54 seconds. As random as I could, so that it wasn't so much in a pattern. And over time I was able to develop what I now call the long practice and the short practice, which we're going to learn here in just a moment. And I had a friend who was saying goodbye to everybody on Facebook, and he was saying, I'm going to take my life this evening. You can't talk me out of it. I'm letting everyone know I love you all, and I'm saying goodbye. So I reached out to him, and he was just a Facebook friend. I didn't know him in real life. I'd never really communicated with him, but I reached out to him and I said, hey, I really need to talk to you. I need you to call me. And a lot of messages back and forth. He absolutely didn't want to call me. Finally, I was able to persuade him, and he called me. And I said, the last few months I've been trying to work out what happened. I went from this incredibly deep state of depression, and I've been trying to understand how the mind works. And I'd like to share some of these things, techniques with you. Would that be okay? And amazingly, he said yes. And so I started taking him through what is effectively now the very first presence session. And he's alive today, and his son has a father, and I'm very happy about that. Then there was a whole bunch of my friends, and some of them are actually here with us watching the stream tonight. And I said, this is what just happened to my friend. I'd like to start sharing these techniques with more people. Could we do it together over the phone? And we'd set up these times, and much like we are now, we used headphones right from the start, and get away in a quiet place. And 7 of my closest friends went through this with me. Some I'd never met in real life. And we started seeing these profound results. Not every single time, but almost every single time. And I started to see there's something going on here. For some people, some of the feedback that I have received, these people are expressing that this has completely transformed their life. Some people have gone from just kind of treading water in life to really being coaches to other people. It's got people out of serious mental ruts. It's saved marriages. And I hope that this very first video is going to be the start of being able to help you to see massive breakthrough in your life. And after spending a life in Christian ministry, I want to make all of this available for free. And so, of course, you're watching this for free. And share it with other people. Yeshua said, freely you have received, freely give. And going through this period of deep depression was a small price to pay to discover some understanding about how the mind works that can help a lot of other people. And so please share this. If it helps you, share it far and wide. If you're watching this somewhere else, maybe someone downloaded the video and showed it to you, then make sure after this you get on your phone or your computer and you go to presencesession.com, and I'm sure there'll be something that I've put there that will be of interest to you. So let's begin. Let's kind of get into the nuts and bolts of all this. Rene Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. And Tolle actually kind of criticizes him in his book. He says, well, that's not true. I've looked at Rene Descartes' quote. I think he's being taken out of context, actually. I don't think that Rene Descartes meant what people think that he's, the way that they quote him. The mind is different and separate to you. It's not who you are. Now, if you've not been free of the mind before, then this can seem like nonsense because all you have known is the mind. But as you're going to experience firsthand here in just a moment, you're going to be able to watch your mind at work and realize, wait, if I'm watching my mind at work, then who is the thing watching the mind? That's you. And what we found is that, as I've done these in person with people, and there's nothing like doing it in person, that's for sure. You get to see in real time the separation occur, where people start to realize, wait, just as we're beginning to explain it, there's a breakage between the bondage of the mind and the self. And so at first it might seem like, no, that can't be possible. I know I'm my mind. I know that everything that I think, it's just that's who I am. It can seem like that. But you're about to see firsthand that that's not the case. Because you're about to see your mind at work in such a very clear way that it becomes unarguable. You are not your mind. You have a mind, and your mind is supposed to work for you. But you are not your mind. It's kind of like pain. When you experience pain, you know that the pain is not you. But there can be people that have chronic pain. They are trying to live with it day in and day out. You can't shut it off. And it starts to consume their identity. And I know there's going to be someone listening that is like, well, he's ticking all my boxes here. But in the same way that we can observe the mind, we can observe the pain, and the pain begins to abate. So we're going to try this right now. This is the first practical exercise of the video. So I want you to pinch your arm, not too hard, please, but enough so you can feel it, enough so your nerve endings go, ouch, okay, yeah, I feel that, okay, just pinch your arm, ouch. So I just did it to myself right here. You just pinch, ow, okay, that's enough, okay. So, are you the pain? No, of course not. You're experiencing the pain. Right. And you can watch that pain, and you can watch it start to fade away, and within 2 or 3 minutes, as long as you didn't pinch yourself too hard, there won't be any pain anymore. It'll just be gone back to normal. If you were to focus deeply on it, you might feel it a lot longer. Because what happens is it begins to fade into the background, just like if you've got an air conditioner on or a fan on. You didn't know about it, or you didn't consciously hear it until I just mentioned it, and now oh yeah, my AC unit is beside me here buzzing away. But it fades into the background. Our mind does this. We don't notice the way our mind is controlling us because it just fades into the background. So we know that you're not the pain. The pain is not you. The pain is simply something that you're experiencing. You can observe the pain. Because you can observe the pain, you can rise above the pain. Now, this can happen even in extreme cases of chronic pain. Emotions are very similar as well, aren't they? This is an interesting one. Are you your emotions? Now, it's interesting, in this video I can't get the feedback, but when I'm doing a session over the phone or in person, obviously I get that instant feedback from the person, and you get a variety of answers. Women are more likely to answer this question in the affirmative. It's very interesting. Are you your emotions? No. Just like pain, you experience emotions, and just like pain, it has a physical impact on the body. Your heart rate can go up, you can start sweating, your mouth might go dry, your tear ducts might release. Emotions cause a physical response. And because of this, it can often feel like we are our emotions. But no, we can observe our emotions, and we can rise above our emotions. So when you dream at night, there's something very interesting that happens at times when you have a lucid dream compared to a normal dream. So in a normal dream, you're kind of almost strapped to a chair watching a movie. And it can be exciting being in a dream. And you wake up and it's like, oh no, I want to go back to sleep, especially if somebody wakes you up in the middle of a dream. Oh no, why did you wake me up? I was having such an incredible dream. I want to go back to sleep. I want to resume the movie. And then there's those times when we have a lucid dream. And a lucid dream is when we're asleep, but there's some very different sensation that we're aware that we're dreaming. We know we are asleep, yet we know that all of a sudden we've woken up inside of the dream. And then you're able to control the dream. And you're able to move around in the dream. Some people can fly in their dream. This gives us clues to how the mind works. When we wake up inside the dream, the self, the awareness, has suddenly become aware of what the mind is doing. And because it's your mind and it's in these thoughts are being generated inside of the tissue of your brain, the awareness that doesn't come from the brain, but is connected, is able to interact with the mind in new hyper-realistic ways. And you're able to make conscious choices in these lucid dreams. And people now try to take supplements and put masks with red flashing LEDs and all kinds of things in them to try to wake them up during a dream so they can have the experience of these lucid dreams. But this same dreamer that entertains us at night, it doesn't turn off during the day. We might think it does a very good job of kind of disguising itself. But the dreamer, the mind that creates these incredible tales and illusions while we sleep, doesn't switch off when we wake up. It's still there, and it's still doing its thing. We can kind of experience this during the day when we're awake, when we're reading a book. If you're reading a fiction book with an incredibly good storyline, you just get lost in it. Hours can seem like minutes. You don't want to put it down. You wanted to get a 5-minute read in before you go to sleep, and you look up and it's 2:30 in the morning. It's like, oh my. You got completely lost in the mind that is creating the story from the words that you're reading on the page. And it all starts to become subconscious. You don't even remember turning the page. You don't remember reading the words on the page. You're just awash in the story now. But your mind is doing this all the time. All day long, from the moment you wake up, all through the night, especially during REM sleep. Well, that's a bit of an interesting dilemma. If the mind is not going to sleep when we wake up, that might start to cause us a few problems. How do we tell what is real from what is just our imagination? We know in a lucid dream how difficult it is to come to grips with the fact that this is not real. It feels completely real to us. So if we can rise above pain, if we can become aware of it and rise above it, if we can become aware of our emotions, then we can rise above them. If we can become aware of the dream state, the way the mind can create a massive imaginative scenario, and we can become aware of that, then we can rise above that. That's what we do in a lucid dream. How then, when we're awake, do we achieve a similar thing to a lucid dream where we become aware of what the mind is doing? That's what we're going to learn how to do right now. To become completely aware of the mind and all its machinations, all the things it's doing to us. So in intuitively looking at the mind and trying to understand what's going on here, I saw that the mind is constantly distracting us. There's hardly a moment goes by where our mind is not completely trying to take us over. It wants all of our attention, and we tend to give it to it. So I noticed that if the self, not the mind, but the self, started to pay attention to something else other than the mind, what would happen? It's like the mind just starts to calm down and buzz off. This mind that has just been constantly harassing us non-stop starts winding down and getting quiet. And it's in that place of silence, of stillness, where the mind is no longer churning away, that we find this incredible peace, this incredible presence that for me has been completely life-changing. And I fully attribute to being able to then find some of these very interesting things that I talk about over at andersondiscoveries.com, and some of the things that at least some of you have already been exposed to. Cracking many historical, archaeological mysteries, because I was finally able to see my own mind at work. So now we're going to start to look at the way the mind works in practicality. So what I want you to do now is make sure you're sitting down. Make sure you're in a place of complete solitude and that no one's going to interrupt you. And you want to be alone when you're doing this, so that you're not having any sense of embarrassment about somebody watching you. How are we doing so far? I hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful time with me right now. And if you're just joining us, I really encourage you to rewind the video to the very start and start over from the beginning. Okay. So I want you to put out your hand. Just put out your hand in front of you. And in your hand, I want you to imagine a pink elephant. Oh. Well, how about that? A pink elephant. How interesting. And let your imagination run wild and make this pink elephant anything you want it to be. Is it a porcelain pink elephant? Is it alive? Is it dancing in your hand right now? What is it doing? And we see with something so simple like this, the power of the mind, but also something that's very important for the world we live in right now. You see how easy it is for someone to manipulate you, to take control of your own mind, to put a thought into your mind. Now we're doing something very harmless here. We're just imagining a little pink elephant in the palm of our hand. But there's many people out there that don't have your best interests at heart, and they want to put a lot of other thoughts into your mind. And unless you're aware of what your mind is doing, you're not going to be aware of what those people are doing. So now we have this thought in our hand. We have this wonderful little pink elephant in our hand. Cute little thing. Now I don't want you to make any judgments about this thought. I just want you to look at the pink elephant, and I just want you to go, well, isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? That's all. It's not good. It's not bad. You're just observing it. You're just noticing it. Oh, look at that. How interesting. Now, how do we get rid of a thought and just move on to something else? Well, you see how real it is. Just drop it on the floor. Just let it go. Come back to me now. Now what I want you to do is we're going to be still for a moment. I'm going to turn my camera off here so I don't distract you and so you're not waiting for me. You're just listening to my voice instead. And I want you to wait for your next thought to come along. And we're just going to give you some time here in silence. The music's just going to play in the background. And when you get that thought, I just want you to watch it. Pay attention to it. I don't want you to judge the thought. Doesn't matter what you think about. Doesn't matter what pops into your mind. The only thing we're going to say about it is, well, isn't that interesting? So by now, everyone has had some thought. And how do we get rid of this thought? Easy. The same way we dismissed the pink elephant. Just drop your hand to the floor and let it go. And it's gone. We have full control of our mind. If we want to. If we practice some basic skills, Our mind doesn't have to control us any longer. So some of us are plagued with thoughts that we just can't get rid of, but yes, you can. Now you can. You have a thought come in, maybe even as I say those words, you'll go, oh yes, oh no, there's those things I think about. I'm thinking about them right now. Okay then, so what do? You can just put them in your hand and go, well, isn't that interesting? And then just drop them onto the floor. Let them go. Come back to me. You have total control of your own mind. The short practice is designed to bring you back to a place of stillness instantly. And we do this by distracting the mind. We're going to focus on things that are not the mind. And then when we do the long practice, we're going to finish every single time we do the long practice with the short practice. And what that does is it anchors the short practice to the result of the long practice. So we're going to learn the short practice first. And the first time we do this, it's not really going to do anything. But the more times that we anchor the short practice into the long practice, the quicker and more effective it will be at bringing us back to that final state that we end up in doing the long practice. So, the first practice is to take 3 breaths, and we're going to pay attention to them. It's going to be to rub your hands together, but not to do it like without looking at your hands, without putting your focus there. And the third thing is you're going to look down at yourself and around, and you're going to notice where you are in space. So you have this spatial awareness. Okay? And this is what you do when you set the timer. In the beginning, I would set the timer for 15 minutes and some random seconds. That might seem like a lot, but what's going to happen is you're going to discover that every time the timer goes off, you are back inside your mind again. But over time, what you'll notice is that the timer will go off and you'll go, I wasn't inside my head. I was totally aware of everything that was going on. And then you can extend the timer a little bit. You can pick up a timer from a sports store. You can get a sports timer. You can use an app on your phone. There's apps for Android and iOS. Although you might need to do a few minutes work to organize that timer, it is so important. Use a timer. So let's learn this short practice more thoroughly. So we're going to focus on our breathing. So you're going to pay attention to the way that you breathe, and we're going to pay a lot of attention to the way we breathe in the long practice in just a moment, and you're going to implement that into the short practice. But for now, we'll just kind of learn the basics. So you're going to breathe 3 times. Just paying attention to the breath. At the same time that you do that, you're going to rub your hands together, and you're going to pay really careful attention to your hands. You're going to look at your hands. You're going to notice if there's any bumps or cuts or anything like that. How clean are your fingernails right now? Do you need to get a nail brush? You're going to notice the humidity of your hands. Are they dry? Are they quite humid? Are they quite damp? Are they hot? Are they cold? And you're going to notice all of the sensation of your hands moving over each other You feel everything. You feel that sensation. You want to pay very close attention to it. Okay. And the third thing we're going to do is we're going to look down to our feet. Now, if you're sitting down, that's okay. Most of the time you do the short practice, you're going to be sitting or standing. And so you can be walking down the street, doesn't matter. No one's going to know that you're doing the short practice. Look down at your feet. See yourself standing right here or sitting here, wherever you are. Look around yourself. Get your bearings. Where are you right now? Okay, I'm here. All right. So, breath, 3 breaths, paying really close attention to the breaths. Moving our hands together, paying really close attention to our hands. Looking down at our feet, seeing our body, and seeing where we are spatially. Oh, I'm here. Okay. We're going to do all 3 of these things at the same time. So let's try that. Okay. Already you feel better. Yeah, I feel like I'm more here now, more grounded. I'm more present. Oh yeah, just wait. We're going to do this at the end of the long practice. I encourage you to do the long practice anytime you have any time. In the morning before you go to work, during your lunch break at work, anywhere you can find a few minutes to just get away and be alone, undisturbed for a moment. So we talked about pain before, right? You know, pain is the aggravation of our nerve endings. I also talked about how you might have an AC unit on right now, or something that's making noise around you, but it just starts to fade into the background. You don't hear it, except now when I've just mentioned it and you're going, oh yeah, okay, now I hear it again, right? So if we want to focus on something other than the mind, we want to focus on the body, because the body isn't the mind. And it's useful because it's with us all the time. We're always breathing. But there's also always this background signal in our body that we don't really pay any attention to because it fades into the background like the AC unit does. Well, we're going to go looking for that. So we're going to spend our time focusing on our breathing and focusing on this electrical signal that's in the body, that's always there. And for some people, they can find it easily, and for others, it takes a little bit. It doesn't matter which is you. And why are we doing this? Because once we start focusing intensely on these 2 things, the mind starts to go away. The mind quietens down. It's almost like the awareness is constantly distracted by the mind, so we're just going to pay attention to something else for a little while. There's nothing particularly special about paying attention to our breathing or paying attention to the electrical signal in the body. They're just useful tools that are at our disposal. So what we're going to do in a minute here is we're going to close our eyes and we're going to start to really intensely focus on our breathing. And I'm going to walk you through some things to really become aware of things. Let me give you an example of how things kind of fade into the background. There's a sensation in your body that is occurring right now, but you are completely unaware of it. And I could give you an hour to try to find it, and you wouldn't. But the moment I tell you what it is, you'll find it like that. This is what our mind is doing, you see. Our mind is very clever about just fading into the background and becoming normal. So I promise you this. There's a sensation in your body that is occurring. It's very, very obvious once I tell you what it is. But you can't feel it right now. You're not conscious of it right now. You're not aware of it right now. And this is just a really, really good example that the things I'm talking about here and teaching you here are real. What is it, Israel? What is this sensation in my body that I'm completely unaware of? It's the cooling in the back of your throat when you breathe in. Breathe in and feel it right now. Oh yeah. Oh my God. Oh, the back of my throat, it cools down when I breathe. Of course it does. It's moist. You've got some evaporative cooling going on there as the air flows into your lungs. Oh wow. It's there for everybody. And you've never noticed it before. Until somebody points it out. It's like this. This is how the mind works. So I'm going to vanish away again because I don't want to be any distraction. And we're going to start to pay attention to our breathing. So I want to make sure you're in a very, very quiet place. No one's going to distract you over the next few minutes. I want you to close your eyes. I want you to put your hands on your knees if that's possible, or just put them somewhere where they're totally relaxed. And I want you to focus on your breathing. I want you to become completely aware of everything about your breathing. I want you to notice that temperature difference between inhaled air and exhaled air. Notice that cooling sensation in the back of your throat even. Notice the humidity difference between the air that you're breathing in to the air that you're breathing out. Notice the difference in sensation between breathing through your nose and breathing through your mouth. Become aware of the sound of your breathing. Become aware of the way your body moves as you breathe. Just completely aware of your breath. Okay, open your eyes. Easy, right? Now we're going to implement the second part, and that is to become aware of the electrical signal in the body, and then we're going to go back to where we just were, and we're going to add this in. So we've got these two things. We're going to go back to focusing on our breathing, and we're going to focus on the electrical signal in the body. And we're going to do it through this unique way. We're going to clap. And I want you to put your hands together like this and clap nice and firmly for me, okay? so that you can feel that sensation now in your palms. Yeah, that's like tingling sensation. Well, that's the electrical signal in the body. You've just amplified it, you've aggravated it by clapping. If you don't feel it, clap a little harder. Great, well, we're going to use this. We're going to use this as a starting point. And we're going to start to find this same signal all through our body. Right? So let's just focus on this one for now. Close your eyes. And just put your hands down on your knees. And I want you to pay attention to that signal in your hands. And I want you to start to find that signal and see as you become more acutely aware of it, that signal is actually all up your arms. It's up and across your shoulder blades. It's right down your back. It's probably in your butt if you're sitting down. If you're standing up, you'll be able to feel it in the bottom of your soles of your feet. Anywhere you have any kind of tightness, stress in your body, you can probably feel it very easily. And you want to become very aware of the energy that's flowing through your whole body. Now, this is not some new age woo-woo energy. This is a real, literal electrical energy. We can put a multimeter on your body and measure it. We can see it on the display of any electrician's multimeter. You have electricity in your body. You're like a battery. And here we're just becoming totally aware of that electrical signal in the body. And we don't need to pause here. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to add in the focus on our breathing again. And we're going to start to pay attention to these two things at once. To the electrical signal in the body. But now we're starting to pay attention to our breathing again. And we're going to notice everything we possibly can about our breathing. Now, as we do this, the mind might throw a thought in our head. Oh no, you've forgotten this or that. So what do we do? Well, you can just hold it in your hand and go, well, isn't that interesting? And then just drop it on the floor and let it go. And then just come back to focusing on your breathing and finding the electrical signal in the body. Another thought comes along, that's okay. Look at that, isn't that interesting? Just let it go. Bring your attention back to your breath. Notice everything you can about your breath. Notice that cooling sensation in the back of your throat again. Notice the difference between breathing in through your nose and breathing through your mouth. Notice the way your body moves with your breath. Still focused on the electrical signal in the body. Still focused on our breathing. Simply dismissing any thoughts, just dropping them onto the ground and returning to our focus on our breath and our body. Now, with your eyes still closed, I want you to do the short practice. So we're already focused on our breathing. I want you to bring your hands together with your eyes still closed. And then I want you just to open your eyes and look down at your own body. Look around the room. Notice where you are. Get that spatial awareness. Very sorry about that, I hit the wrong button. And just look around. Look around at your surroundings, where you are. How do you feel right now? You feel still? You feel calm? The more you do this, the more you'll be able to calm the mind down and just be still with yourself. Doesn't take long. We were just doing that for a couple of minutes. And we'll do it again. And then I want to talk to you when we're in that still state about some of the things that might be hassling you. So, let's close our eyes again. Focusing on our breathing. And now you notice how easy it is to just go straight back to focusing on the electrical signal in the body. It's very simple. There it is. It's not elusive. Any thoughts coming along, we know how to get rid of them. We know how to dismiss them. Just let them go. And return your focus to your breathing and to the body. And in this place, there's no problems. There's no concerns. Everything is perfect. We might have an emotion come along and we go, oh, look at that. Well, isn't that interesting? Maybe you've got some pain in your body and that suddenly come to your mind. You go, well, look at that. Isn't that interesting? And just come back and return to this place of stillness. Focused on your breath. Focused on the body. Now there's times when the mind says to us things that aren't very helpful. It says, you're feeling depressed, so go to the fridge and get some food. But now you can see it's just the mind. You can go, well, I see that emotion, and it's interesting, but I'm not hungry. The mind says, I really need that nicotine right now. I really need that cigarette. We need to get outside and we need to stop doing this right now. I'm just craving that cigarette. And you can just look at what the mind is doing and saying to you, and you can just say, well, isn't that interesting? And you can hold that craving, that addiction in your hand, and you can just drop it onto the ground and go, okay, away you go. There's that social anxiety. It's, oh no, I have to do this thing. I don't want to do it alone. But you're never alone. You're with yourself all the time. You are here. And so when you have those emotions starting to rise to the surface, you can see them. I know you. but I don't have time for you right now. So if you don't mind, you're interesting, but I have better things to do than deal with you, so I'm just going to drop you on the ground here. And I'm just going to return to this place of stillness. While we're still focused on our breathing and our body, I want you to bring your hands together. Just become aware of the sensation, moving your hands across each other. Open your eyes and watch yourself just moving your hands. Then I want you to look down. See yourself sitting there or standing there, whatever the case may be. Look around you. Look around the room that you're in right now. How do you feel right now? We can understand the mind. We can observe the mind. And when it tries to take us over, we can just go, wow, that's interesting, but I don't have time for that right now. There's so many distractions in life that we will find ourselves pulled back into the mind so fast. Watching television is one of the main ways. They are masters of manipulation. They're not going to get you to imagine a pink elephant in your hand. They're going to get you to imagine that you need this that we're talking to you about right now. Call this number right now. You need this. No, you don't. And the best thing you can do is just turn them off. You don't need those voices anymore. You don't need it in the background. Yeshua talked about worry and concern, and he said, why worry about tomorrow? You can't change your height by worrying. You can't change the circumstance by worrying. So when you come into this place of stillness, you find that there is total tranquility here. And these things that were bothering you before, these things that, when I start to talk about them, it probably reminds you of them. And you go, oh yes, I know what you're talking about. Okay, so you hold them in your hand and you go, well, aren't you interesting? And just let it go. Don't live in the past. Don't live in the future. Just be here, right now. Just be present, be still. This is the only place that you need to be. And here, there's no problem. There's nothing wrong here. Just you and yourself. Awareness of the self. Awareness of the mind. Awareness of our emotions. Awareness of pain. And when we're aware of them, then we have power over them. And we can just hold them in our hand and say, well, aren't you interesting? Bye-bye. Every time you do the long practice, finish with the short practice. So that's what we're going to do right now. We're just going to do the short practice, right? So while you're listening to me and looking at me on your phone, you're just going to turn your energy to your breathing for 3 breaths. Bring your hands together. Don't pay attention to me for a moment. Look down at yourself. You know the drill. Look around. Get your bearings. Okay, I'm here. Great. And you feel grounded straight away. It's amazing. Make sure you keep finishing the long practice with the short practice, so that when you do the short practice and you're out walking, or doesn't matter what happened, maybe somebody just got in your face at work, it's okay, you can just it's okay, I'm here, I'm present, I'm not in my head, I'm here, I'm with myself, with my awareness. Yeah? I hope that what we've done here this evening has helped you. Some people are going to need to go through this several times, and that's okay, because it's right here for you, it's free, it's accessible to you anytime you want. So make use of it. You might want to get your spouse and say, hey, take my phone for an hour and go do this, listen to this video. And if that was you, good job. Now, the way we're going to end this is we're going to go back into the long practice, and we're going to stay there for a while. And I'm not going to say any more. And then you can just find your time and place to dismiss yourself and open your eyes, finishing with the short practice, breath, hands, and body. And then I encourage you to go for a walk if it's safe where you are at night. If you're doing this during the day, definitely go out for a walk. Look around. You'll notice that things might be a lot more three-dimensional. Things might be a lot more vibrant and colorful than they were before. You're going to see things you've never noticed before, but they've always been there and you've probably walked past them hundreds of times. Because now the mind isn't controlling you. Now you're present. Right? So thank you for spending this time with me this evening. I appreciate you. Let's go back in to the long practice. So close your eyes. And just focusing on our breath, paying attention to everything we can about our breathing. Noticing the difference in temperature between breathing in and breathing out. Notice the difference between breathing through your nose and breathing through your mouth. Notice the way your body rocks and moves as you breathe. And finding that electrical signal now in the body. Where is it? We had it before. Oh, there it is. And you want to move towards the point of sensing this electrical signal to the point where it almost feels like as you look down with your eyes closed, you can see your body there through your closed eyelids. You can sense it so deeply. You're so completely in touch with the body now. And a thought comes in, and that's okay. And we just hold it in our hand. And at first you can use your hand physically if you want to. Then after a while you can just do it without even moving. Just drop it on the floor Let it go. It's not important. And come back to this place of solitude and stillness. Still focused on our breathing. Still focused on our body. Now you stay here as long as you want. I look forward to talking with you later. But you just enjoy this moment, even if it's just for another 2 minutes. But if you have another 10 minutes, then stay here for 10 minutes. And then anchor the short practice into the long practice. And then be about getting that timer. You have a wonderful evening.